Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be reviewing The Brutalist. I just watched it. I watched it today a few hours ago and I've been gathering my thoughts to really say what I thought about the movie. This is a movie that I've been really excited to see for around 1 to 2 months. It released quite late in Hong Kong. I think in the US it released last month, and I've been seeing all the reviews, interviews from since last month, and it has only come out in Hong Kong this month. It's almost near the end of February, so you can know how much I've been really waiting, looking forward to really seeing this. Some of the things that I was really excited to see was the cinematography, the acting that people have been talking about, and of course the really long runtime. So initially, what did I think about it? I think the first half the movie is so strong in terms of the screenplay, the acting, the setup, the way they set up all these characters, the build up of it was so well done. So I thought it was just fantastic overall. Like there were some parts that I felt like, okay, it went on for a little too long here or there, but I still thought, okay, this is a near perfect first half of the movie. And then the second half started after the 15-minute intermission, and I thought the second half was still very, very good overall. But I think the main issue that I had was there were a lot of time jumps. Like it showed someone who was really young, and then suddenly it cuts to the next scene, and they're much older, and then they disappear, and then there's a bunch of things that come very fast. So I thought it could have had a better transition. And then the ending, the epilogue, I was definitely kind of quite unsatisfied. I didn't really like the closing lines. Aside from that, I think straight up Adrian Brody as Laszlo Toth, the architect, the brutalist architect that this movie is showcasing. Wow, man! Like I really saw this guy as Laszlo. Like I couldn't see the actor Adrian Brody. I could only see Laszlo. So that was it was such a good performance. He really transformed into this character. Amazing. Guy Pearce in this movie was also so magnificent. I thought the portrayal of this very egotistical businessman who just, he looks down on people. He thinks that he's very high above everyone, and the way he talks, even to Laszlo and everyone, is very condescending. And I thought he portrayed it so well. Um, yeah, I thought it was so realistic in terms of the portrayal. Like I've seen people who are really condescending like that, who are very rich, and he portrayed it just like those kinds of people. So I thought it was such a realistic performance. And there's Felicity Jones, Joe Alvin, pretty much everyone in terms of the acting. I thought they did such a amazing job. They really gave their hearts to this type of setting, this historical setting, to these characters. So I thought they did a really good job. Coming to the cinematography, this was mostly shot on VistaVision, which is the horizontally running 35 millimeter instead of the standard vertical 35 millimeter that is shot on most of the films that are shot on film. So I thought the cinematography was so stunning. You could see so much detail in the faces, the locations, and of course this historical production design. Wow. I just loved the cinematography, and this is a movie that you have to see on the big screen. You couldn't simply watch it on your phone or a laptop computer. This is a type of movie that is really meant to be seen on the big screen. Don't be dismayed by the runtime. I think the runtime, for the most part, I think this movie had a very, very good pacing. And there's an intermission, so it's not like you gotta sit through 3 hours straight. So I do recommend people who are interested in seeing this movie to watch it in cinemas if you can. And getting to the screenplay, I think the screenplay was also very, very strong. The way the scenes are written. They tried to make it really minimalistic. I think it might have been also because they might not be able to get as big of a budget, so they decided, okay, all the scenes we will set it in a way that it's very minimalistic. We're only gonna have the dialogues between these two people. But even then, I think the first half of the movie, the way all the scenes were shot and written was very, very good. And as a filmmaker, from that perspective as well, I thought I also do this type of a scene setting because if we shoot too many setups, then it's gonna cost more money, more time. So if we just have one setup or just two setups, then you could finish shooting that scene in a relatively quick way. And apparently, this movie, even though it's a 3 hour plus film, it was shot in only like around 30 days, which is quite insane for a movie like this. I also really like the use of long takes. There was a lot of takes that they didn't cut back and forth between. They shot the whole scene, and then there might be cuts in between, but you can tell that they shot a whole scene first and then they go to the next area for coverage rather than shooting a lot of different angles from different places. I also think that's not really necessary for most films, and I think this movie they really utilize this format, this VistaVision format, the way they captured the wide shots with the architecture. I thought that was shown very well, and the close-ups. A lot of scenes had a lot of close-ups, whether it's the dialogue scenes or even the intimate scenes. They shot with a lot of close-ups, where you can only see the actors' faces, and it was so amazing because they were also shooting in VistaVision, so you could really see the performance so in such a detailed way. Their all the pores in their faces, the way that the light hits their faces, the micro expressions that they have was all so it really helped that it was in VistaVision, I thought. Yeah, I thought those parts were really, really good. Now getting to the things that I thought could have been really done better. There was definitely a scope to it, right? They really wanted to capture this man's journey, this whole guy's life in America. In terms of that, they succeeded for the most part, but I did feel like there was a lot that was left out. It jumped from moment to moment a little too quickly. We didn't emotionally connect as well as we should have in the second half of the movie. I think it could have been handled a lot better. Certain scenes in the later parts of the movie were also the choices made sense, but I also felt like it could have been handled a little bit better. I don't know how it could have been done better, but it's like a lot of unexplained things, a lot of things that it just suddenly happens and then we move on to the next one. And in the epilogue that they have explaining what why he built this monument, and then the closing lines of, oh, it's not about the journey, it's about the destination. And I was just like, no man, that is no way they're gonna end with that kind of line. And there were some crucial characters that were so important, but their death is just said in passing, like, oh, they died. So we're like, wait, what? So there were things that it really should have had more weight to it. There should have been a little more scenes that showed things rather than just said. Okay, there were a lot of things that definitely it's left to the viewer's imagination, and there's definitely things that were shown very well, but there were still a lot of things that I felt like it was a little too much tell don't show rather than show don't tell. I wish the movie fully employed the show don't tell rather than just tell and move on. That might also have to do with the fact that this movie was not a big budget movie. It was only made in around 9 million, $10 million. Even with that, it's still very impressive for sure. Considering that this movie is so long, if they maybe cut down on certain scenes and added more scenes with to explain more of the story in certain places and not have some jarring time jumps, I think the movie would have really worked. I think the reason why first half the movie works so well is because we were really with these characters throughout their journey in those moments. We could really feel why Laszlo was doing this, why Laszlo was doing that, and we really followed him on this journey. But the second half, I think the problem was that it felt distant because of the time jumps. We didn't really know how he transitioned from this to this, or how he got this job, and how he suddenly there's this happening, that happening. So it's like, yeah, we get what the director is trying to do, but if there was a little more smoothness to the transitions, if there were some scenes that didn't just tell certain things in passing, I think the movie would have been much more stronger. I think this movie really did have the potential to be like one of the best movies of all time. I think it really had such a huge potential, and I think it achieves that to a certain extent already. Just falters quite a lot in the later parts of the movie. Yeah, I think that those were the things that I really wish it could have done better. And in terms of the style of this movie, it's definitely very European in every sense. If you watch a European movie from the 1960s, 70s, you know the style of the big directors, the way they direct films. In this channel itself, I reviewed a movie called The Damned. That's also a European film. Not necessarily European films, but even American films made by Europeans, they have a certain style, they have a certain sensibility with what they show and the way they show things. So this movie definitely has that kind of European sensibilities. So if you're not really into that, you're not really into European art house type of filmmaking, I think you might not really like this movie. But if you are really into cinema, European sensibilities, European art house films, Ingmar Bergman, Luchino Visconti, Sergio Leone, these directors, I think if you like these directors' films, I think you'll like this movie as well. Yeah, and another thing I want to say, the cinematography was very, very good, but I also felt like it could have not had too much handheld. I don't know what is up with people like Christopher Nolan using large format to do handheld, because I really feel like big formats, large formats like this, whether it's 70mm VistaVision, even Alexa LF, which is digital, but it's still the large sensor. So I don't know why, if you're using such a large sensor, you have to do handheld, because when you're watching a handheld on a big screen, it is a lot more jarring than when you're watching it on TV or a smaller screen. So I think it would have been better if they did away with all the handheld stuff. Even then, I think the movie still looks very good because the lighting, the color texture is all very, very good. But I think handheld is not the way to go, especially when you're having such a big format. I think handheld is not the best idea. Other than that, I think the cinematography, the staging, the lighting, the blocking of the actors, the placement of the setting, the props, perfect, magnificent. I have no complaints about it. Just the few handheld moments, I felt like it could have not did it. Yeah, I think handheld is not really that good to use for such a large format. Whether it's IMAX 70mm, VistaVision, or Alexa LF, they could have showed a little more about the design, because they moved from the design to the construction. So I felt like there could have been a little more showcase of that. And I was really expecting that this movie would have had Laszlo building more architecture stuff, more monuments, but instead it's mostly about him building this one monument for this Guy Pearce's character. So I think it's still pretty good, and perhaps we could have showed more of his later stages in life. Even if it's like a 4-hour film, it's like, okay, you already got to this runtime with 215 minutes, which is already so huge. Why not go all the way to like 4 hours or 4.5 hours and give us a more comprehensive story? Yeah, those are my thoughts on the movie. Oh, and another thing, I felt like the character of Adrian Brody, Laszlo Toth, he was definitely unlikable in a lot of parts. And yes, it is intentional the way Brady Colbert, the director, made him very unlikable. It's understandable why. I felt like certain times he was going a little too unlikable. Like, yeah, we get it. He's meant to be this very traumatized character who escaped from war. That's why he's engaging in all these addictions. He just wants to, process this trauma. But as the movie goes on, it starts to feel a little too much. Like, this guy's not really that good of a guy. Just because you're a great architect, just because you're a great artist, doesn't mean you have the rights to treat your wife in a shitty way, or your the people you work with in a shitty way. So that's why I felt a little like off about it, especially in the second half. The first half, it's like, okay, it's building up to later parts of the movie, but the later parts of the movie come and you're like, this guy is not really the best guy, and just because he's a great architect doesn't mean he could get away with whatever bad thing that he does. So yeah, that's what I felt. Overall, I thought the movie was very strong, very good. Definitely a movie that you have to watch in the cinemas. I do want to say there's a content warning. This movie is a very, very European type of movie. So, as you can expect, this is not for kids. This is not a movie that you can watch with your families. This definitely is very, very mature. Lots of mature themes, lots of intimate scenes, a lot of scenes where people take drugs. So I think the way it was shown was a lot less detailed than I expected, but it was still a part of the movie. So definitely viewers' discretion advised. And later parts of the movie, there's some very intense scene. So I mean, I'm not sure if whether it's to say it's intense. It's more disturbing and kind of disgusting. So definitely you gotta be prepared for that if you're gonna watch the movie. So yeah, that's what I thought about it. I was really expecting this to be a lot better with all the buzz that it was getting, and all the reviews, the interviews, the way it was talked about, and the fact that it was a movie made in VistaVision, and so it was a movie that's a very epic film. I was really expecting a lot more, but overall, it was still a very strong effort. Like, I'm really looking forward to Brady Colbert's next movie. I hope he learns the lessons from this movie, the mistakes he made from this movie, to make a much better movie in his next outing. And he has said that he's gonna make in 70 millimeters, so I'm really looking forward to that. Like, I really want to watch in 70 millimeter. Hopefully, I really hope that I could go to a country or place that I could watch 70 millimeters. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Do let me know what you thought of the movie. Do let me know what your thoughts are on the ending, the theories. I think I'm definitely gonna make another video discussing more spoilers and analysis of the movie. So yeah, thanks for watching.